Many people RSVP. I want to make sure we're able to have as many people able to watch this later on as possible. So let me first start off by saying thank you so much to all of you for making the time to come this evening. I really do appreciate it. I know all the friends of Robinson Park do. We're here tonight because we're going to talk about the one-third design plans that were released by the township. So a little housekeeping before we get started. I think we all know what Robinson Park is, but just in case, it's a little popular picturesque park. It was acquired by the township in 96. It's 4.4 acres. Now, this is important to note because as a result of the size. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about tonight are going to pertain to, the layout of the township's plans. Sorry about that. So this is the scope area of the plan in question. This is the current sort of footprint of what the park looks like at the moment. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. This meeting is being recorded. If you don't consent to being recorded, that is perfectly fine. You are welcome to leave the meeting. We will post this video on our website, and we are planning to send this out to the folks who RSVP'd and also to our mailing list. I am going to actually mute you all right now, except for myself. To minimize background noise. It doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. There will be a Q&A portion at the end of the meeting. So you can either raise your hand like this. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat, or there's also a raise hand function on Zoom, and you can unmute yourself or I can unmute you. Additionally, we sent this meeting invitation out to our community and also to some representatives from the township staff and commissioners. They may be here anonymously. They may be here, announcing themselves, but please note they are just here to gather information and to inform their ongoing work on this project. So we're not expecting them to comment, answer questions, or address concerns at this meeting unless they so choose. That's entirely their choice to do so. If you want any of the materials, I will place, as soon as I hand off the baton to my next speaker, I will place the agenda in its full form into the chat. And I believe it also went out in the email that I think a lot of you guys received when you RSVP'd. But just in case, if there's anything you see that you would like to see in closer form or you want it sent to you, please just message me in the chat or email the Friends of Robinson Park or friendsofrobinsonpark@gmail.com. So just a little bit to cover our agenda this evening. We're going to do introductions of who's here on the board. We're going to make them real sweet, short and sweet, but we want to talk about the recent happenings in the park, just in case some folks aren't fully aware of what's been going on. And then we're going to go over the public works agenda that was released by the township, including the one-third design plans. And we're also going to review the protocols for the committee and board of commissioner meetings because they're a little bit different than the meetings that we've had in the past that a lot of you may be familiar with. And welcome into everyone who's just joining us now. Thank you so much again for being here. So we will also review the one-third design plan being presented to Public Works and the Board of Commissioners meeting. So really quickly, I want to take a second and invite our board to step forward. We have my name is Alex Gilliam. I'm the VP, Secretary, and Director of Communications. We also have with us, we have Daria Kachmar, who is our president. She's an original member of the Friends of Robinson Park organization from 25 years ago. Also with us this evening, we have Alicia Agolia, who is our treasurer, and she's an environmental engineer. We also have Lee Altadonna, another board member. He's with Bird Safe Philly and Liberty Bird Alliance. Sorry, I have a couple more people coming in. We also have, I think Judy Callis may be here. If she's not here, she will be here momentarily, but she is another one of our board members. She's an educator at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy. We also have Ted Serby with us. He's a board member and a mechanical engineer. I don't know if Emily McGady's here, but she is another board member. She's the head of STEM for Abington Township School District. And Brooke Welsh, I know, is going to try to attend, but I don't know if she can come for the whole thing. She is a board member and our community relations manager and outreach. So up next here, a little bit of recent happenings with our with our park. So on September 3rd, the Public Works Committee approved the elimination of Phragmites, which are the reed weeds, which most of you are familiar with. This is in partnership with the Tacony Frankford watershed, and they recommended that the issue move forward with for approval by the Board of Commissioners, who approved it on September 17th, and the TTF sought and received DEP approval. So the spraying is scheduled to begin on October 8th. And again, for those of you who just joined us, if you have any questions about anything, we're going to have a section for this at the end of the meeting. But if you have any urgent questions, you're welcome to wave me down or message in the chat, and I will acknowledge you at the next moment to do so. So I'm going to hand off the baton here to our president, Daria Kachmar. Daria, why don't you take the lead?
Thank you very much. So this is the agenda for the Public Works Committee meeting that was posted on Friday evening after 5 o'clock, which is very typical protocol. And as you can see, under old business, they're considering approval of the 1/3 of the plan design and payment of $128,000 to Gannett Fleming. So at this meeting, we're anticipating that Public Works will approve this and recommend that this move to the full Board of Commissioners for their approval of the plan design and payment. And that will take place roughly 2 weeks. We're looking at probably the 22nd. So we have some fast and furious dates that are rapidly approaching. What we wanted to spend some time, next slide, please. What we wanted to spend some time talking to you about tonight is the protocols for the Public Works Committee and the Board of Commissioners is much different than the protocol that was followed for the 2 community meetings that we had at Curtis. So just want you to understand that there's a different process that we need to follow in order to make sure that the meeting can be conducted in an orderly fashion. So Public Works occurs just by Zoom. There is no public attendance. They generally follow their agenda pretty strictly. Robinson Park, as mentioned, will be taken care of or addressed under old business, and the approval is for the 1/3 project design and the payment of Gannett Fleming. There is an opportunity to speak at Citizens Forum, which occurs at the end of the meeting after the approval takes place. And in order to speak, you need to raise your hand to be acknowledged. You will be acknowledged by likely the chair or the township manager. You are limited to 3 minutes in your commentary, and they are very strict. So if you choose to speak, brevity is absolutely key because they will be watching their watches. All questions that you may have must be directed to the commissioners, not to address any questions to staff, not to address any questions to the consultants. The commissioners may defer to staff or the consultants for response, but we cannot address the staff or consultants directly. And we're anticipating that the committee will recommend that this project be moved forward to the Board of Commissioners on the 22nd. Now, if we can move to the next slide. With regard to the Citizens Forum and speaking at the end, Alex, next slide, please. No, you're missing one. There we go.
That I received.
There at the top of the agenda, there is a statement, and it says Cheltenham Township, believing that the public input is appropriate on any items coming before the commissioners, will recognize any citizen wishing to address a specific item prior to the vote on that issue. So should you have questions, please let us know. We can send Mitch Zygmunfeld an email. He's the chair of the committee in advance, so he will be aware of the fact that there may be some questions in advance of any vote that's taken. But they do have this disclaimer, so you're not necessarily limited to Citizens Forum, which occurs at the end. You can speak prior to their vote, but we really need to let them know in advance because we don't want to disrupt the flow of their meeting. Can I
And
have the
really
next
quickly,
slide?
if I may interject really quickly, so please let us at Friends of Robinson Park know so that we can present a consolidated front and make sure that they're aware. And in addition, you are also welcome to, there's a form that we created if you want to get your thoughts out there to all of the commissioners on our website. There's a form that we created that will automatically email all of your commissioners. So we highly recommend that you do that.
Okay, so a little bit different for the Board of Commissioners, which is going to be held on 10/22 at 7:30. This is via Zoom and in person at Curtis. So you can show up at Curtis and approach the podium and have an opportunity to speak. They do follow the agenda strictly. The agenda will likely not be available until 10/17. And again, Robinson Park will be addressed under old business and likely it'll be the 1/3 project plan design. Next slide, please. Another significant difference is there is a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting prior to the commissioner's approval of any items. So you will have 2 opportunities to speak at the commissioners versus 1 opportunity to speak at the Public Works Committee. All questions still have to be directed to commissioners. And for both of the public comment and citizens forum, you have to raise your hand and you are limited to your 3 minutes. Any questions on that? Okay, no, I'm going
Hold
to.
on, in the chat,
Yes.
we have someone saying the public may speak before any vote. You don't have to wait until citizens forum. Submitting questions ahead of time is a good practice. Thank you, Avis. Avis Chase Women's Association. Thank you.
Yes.
So yeah, any way you can get your thoughts out there, do take advantage of that. Please continue.
That's right. I'm passing it to Ted. So what you see on the screen is the actual design itself. There are multiple pages of gobbledygook at the beginning and multiple pages of gobbledygook at the end. I am not an engineer, so I will not even pretend to understand what this means, but that's why we have Alicia and Ted here to explain what we're looking at. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks for showing up tonight. Just some brief things about this drawing. To the right of the drawing is Bent Road. Top of the drawing is Greenwood Avenue, and the left side is Walt Lane. You can see by the center portion, the darkened center, that is basically the daylighted stream. They will be removing the concrete channel as it is in there now. They will be serpentining it and creating a more natural path. Now, that is approximately, I think, 5 to 6 feet wide. The edge of the actual water path will have a barrier, a planting barrier on each side. And from that planting barrier to the end of the repairing barrier, as you can see by the slightly dotted line traveling through the park. That is approximately based on the scale of the drawing from the center line of that channel to the edge of the riparian baffle, about 53 feet on each side. So roughly 105 feet total edge to edge. Now that eats up a considerable amount of park area. As you can see, if you were standing looking at Walt Lane and approximate center edge of the pond and look down toward Walt Lane, your sight level would be even with the entrance there, and basically all that it will be the riparian barrier, which will not have access. You're not allowed to have access. That's where all the plantings will be. We don't have any idea right now what those plantings will be. They haven't decided on that yet. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see where there's a relatively straight line, again, midpoint of the pond and up towards Greenwood Avenue on the other side of the channel. There is not shown right now any means of gaining access to the Greenwood Avenue side of the park from that location. The engineers did comment in some of their documents about a walkway, but nothing's been said about that yet. They also will be modifying where the stream will enter the outflow that goes underneath Bent Road. Not sure what they're going to do there, but I think because of the fact that there's a grate on that now and it blocks up during heavy water, I'm assuming they're going to address that. Now, going back down to the Walt Lane side, if you noticed, there is limited access from what they're calling the concrete pad there. There are many trees. You can access to the Greenwood Avenue side there, but we're hoping again that they have some walkway or such that people can access it. Also, the township will need to get in there and mow, so they may not have just decided what they're going to do there. I mean, right now there'd be two access points, Walt Lane and the break in the wall on Greenwood Avenue. So you could enter that area. What we're hoping, and I guess we'll discuss this a little bit further, is that the riparian buffer that's at 105 feet, we're hoping that we can get that reduced so we can have a little bit more usable space in the park. Right now, that cuts down a lot of what is now the open field. So, and I mean, just reiterate that this design is the culmination, the 30% design is the culmination of much discussion between Jeff Cherico and Rappaport staff and Gannett Fleming to a certain point. And they have listened to us and have made some changes. We're hoping that they will listen to us again and hopefully make some modifications. Next.
Great, Ted. Thank you.
Okay. Feedback, questions on the design. One of the things is they are going to attack and eliminate the Phragmite. And from the looks of how they're going to go through the park, they may actually be able to dig some of that up, but we won't know until they start excavating. We will retain the pond. They're not changing that. The grotto and the gazebo and the wall. We're hoping we can also get some reconstruction and fixing of the wall. Like I said earlier, that we're losing a lot of open space, and this is a passive park, so we need to have open space so we can do things. They also mentioned that they're probably going to be receiving some MS4 credits from the proposed plan, which is different from what they originally stated. That may well be due to the overall width of the riparian barrier, but it's a question we want to ask. And as I said earlier, there's no bridges to permit access to the Greenwood Avenue side. I think they're going to see that when they start getting into the 90% design. But right now, we can just ask the question. Next, please. One of the things we've been going back and forth on is getting the Bahar involved, because it's a historic structure, the way it's formulated in the park. They have been involved. We don't know whether they need any kind of formal approval from the Bahar and whether they have to sign off on anything. Since they're not attacking the pond, we're not. That's one of the reasons we want to ask that question. We're not sure what they're going to do. One of the questions that we also had is they're bringing the pond, I mean the riparian barrier up to the edge of the pond. Along that edge, there are numerous cuts and breakings of the coping. We're hoping that they're going to reinforce that or fix it. Otherwise, they're going to have an issue probably. Also, they didn't address one of the things about the community garden, which in the very early portion of the discussions, they said they were going to try to move further up the slope towards Greenwood Avenue from where it is now. Could you go back to the slide so people can see? So the community garden is up there near the left-hand side in very faint dotted lines. The original concept, or at least discussion, was to move that closer to Greenwood Avenue. That may be part of the next design, not sure. Okay, thank you. And I think that's it for me.
Yes, thank you, Ted.
Can I just interject one thing, please?
Please.
Some of the other questions that we have is there's reference to a flume being removed, and that flume is critical for several of the houses and for drawing the water away from our homes. And if that flume is removed, it's going to result in a significant amount of potential erosion. And there's also no mention of a maintenance plan. And when will that be presented? So we know that it will take 3 to 5 years for this riparian buffer to actually take hold and become self-sustaining. But during that period of time, there is maintenance that is going to be required. And we're not sure exactly when that's going to be addressed. So I don't know if we want to pause there and look for some feedback from people or questions that you may have in seeing this design.
Sure. One of our other slides explains what a riparian buffer is, but if anybody has any questions about anything prior to that, feel free to unmute, turn on your camera, or message in the chat. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts?
Yeah, so we have two references for riparian buffers. One is the PA Stormwater Management Best Practices Manual, and that indicates that 35 feet at a minimum. And we now know, based on what Ted has calculated looking at the drawing, that this exceeds that pretty significantly. And they're saying the buffers less than 35 feet don't necessarily protect the aquatic resources long term. And then from Darren LeBrake, if any of you had attended any of the meetings that Perry had held, Darren was our wetland expert, and he indicated that according to the Stroud Water Research Center, a 35-foot buffer is the minimum. So we don't know why they would be looking to exceed that, but hopefully that's a question that they can answer. So we're here to gather your questions and hope that you could give us some feedback so that we can move forward in figuring out what we're going to present on Wednesday evening.
As we're waiting for questions to come in, like I said, you can message the chat, you can unmute, you can turn your camera on and wave. Oh, we got someone in the chat. Eva, thank you. Can you please expand on at what point we will get clarity on a quote bridge across the stream? I feel that's important. We agree with you, Eva. It's really important. And it was interesting that they didn't mention it in this particular portion of the design because they'd been talking about it. I remember it from some of the other previous meetings where they'd mentioned a bridge, they'd mentioned a walkway, they'd mentioned a couple other things. Not sure why that disappeared in this particular iteration of the design. It's possible that they might just have left it out. And but it's on our list in terms of things to ask them. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, can I follow up with, can you hear me first of all?
Sure, I can hear you. Please be my guest.
Yeah, thanks. So I think it's, just to reiterate, I think it's really important for the cohesiveness of the park not to be cut in half like that. I don't understand what's actually being approved in this 1/3. It seems like there's future opportunity to have input and revisions of the plan from what I've heard today. So this plan that was just presented to us, when it's going in front of the commissioners now, what exactly are they approving and how much opportunity is it that do we have for future revisions and input?
It's a great question. Daria, would you like to take that?
Sure. What they are actually proving is this design that you've been presented with, which if you overlay the first design, it is extremely similar to the first design that Gannett Fleming presented. With the exception that the channel no longer runs directly into the pond. But they're asking for $128,000 for this design that you're seeing on slide 12. And then they will move forward from the Board of Commissioners meeting. There is a 6-week time frame that Gannett Fleming will be working to come up with a 90% design. So we have a few things. We can go to Public Works and comment. We have 2 weeks to comment to our Board of Commissioners before they hold their meeting and approve the $128,000 and the design is presented. We then have 6 weeks in order to comment on this design before Gannett Fleming comes back with a 90% design. It would be most favorable for us to have our comments made early in order to make sure that they are incorporated, because as you know, with any revisions of these drawings and these designs, it becomes more and more costly. So that's what they're asking for approval for, and that's the timeline that we have to work within. Does that explain it, Eva? Or do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I think it does. So this plan going up here is not the final plan because of all of this opportunity for comment, et cetera. Because right now I'd say I don't like the plan because it cuts the park in half with no way of going across the stream. But if they were to put some sort of bridge or otherwise enable crossing the stream, then that goes a long way toward alleviating my concerns. And I'm very, very happy that they're not touching the pond at this point.
Agreed.
Certainly.
And let me be really, really frank. The Board of Commissioners, the Public Works Committee would be thrilled if they saw none of us at these meetings and did not have to respond to any of our questions and comments. So their objective is to move this forward as quickly as possible with as little fuss and muss from the community as possible. It is going to be up to us to insert ourselves according to the protocols that are available to make sure that we are heard.
And really quickly, I want to acknowledge Ted.
Go ahead, Ted. Sorry.
Yes, back to Eva's question. Eva, this is basically the blueprint. They're gonna move forward from this concept design. All the details will follow in the 90%. What kind of trees, what kind of bushes, what kind of sand they're going to use, that type of thing. Whether how they're going to encase the sewer line underneath, and whether they hit rock, things like that will be further designed as we go along. But this is the baseline from where they're going to proceed. And from this question, you can send emails and questions, hopefully through us, and we can forward them on to the commissioners, and who hopefully will move that on to Gannett Fleming. They, quite frankly, they have listened to us, and hopefully they will continue to do that. So if you have any questions or concerns, yeah, you should forward them on. Now is the time to do it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you as well. Ken and Jeff, go ahead, please.
Hi there.
We can hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, great. So I guess kind of a similar question. I'm trying to reconcile this with the earlier renderings we saw, at the start, which had the pass, it has the bridge. Would we not expect to see those at this stage? And are we assured that what we were sold earlier on is actually going to happen in terms of pathways, potentially viewing area? I guess I'm having trouble jiving this, what seems like a very detailed bit around a very small, not small part, but the part that the township is most interested in terms of water management, and doesn't address the neighbor community concerns and use of the park. So I guess what I'm asking is the assumption that all that's going to come later? And do we trust that that's coming later? Or are those questions to be raised now? Like, where's the bridge? Where's the pathways on the earlier drawings?
I think if I could refer back to what Ted said, this is the blueprint. So this is what they're going to be using as their roadmap in order to move forward with some of the finer issues that they're going to have to deal with from an engineering perspective. But if you want to see bridges, if you want to see walking paths, if you want to see the reduction of the riparian buffer in order to allow for more open space, now is the time for us to vocalize those concerns before they receive approval and move forward using the design that was presented on Friday as their blueprint. Ted, do you have anything you want to add to that? Alicia, do you have anything you wanted to add?
I wanted to show, since we do have the old blueprints from Design 1 and Design 2, Alex, if you would be kind enough to both show what is currently proposed and design one. And let me point out here, if you just take a look at the stream path on this one and then go to design one. It's back in, and I apologize for sending you back a bunch
This
of
is no
slides.
law. The first design is no longer in the.
No, it is, Alex. I tucked it way,
It's at
way,
the-
way at the
It's at
end.
the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't lose any slides. There's
This
design
guy?
one.
There's design one. No, I know it's really very faint, but if you look at the light blue line, it's exactly the same design. They basically just took out the walking path, the boardwalk. What they were going to do was make a wetland out of the whole thing. So they've taken out the boardwalk. They're not making a wetland out of the whole thing, but essentially they went right back to exactly that design. And they've not given us any bridges or anything like that. So I am grateful that they're not taking out the pond and that they're leaving it the way it is. There are a lot of good things that the community wanted in this third iteration of a design. But is there the ability to move the stream a little bit to the Greenwood side of the line? I don't know, possibly that might move the riparian buffer a little bit. Again, I don't really know, but they really didn't redesign much other than they gave us back design one with a few changes that we had asked for. So I am grateful for the changes that they've done. But again, I think this is, as Ted said, this is the time for questions and this is the time for our voices to be heard. And I really would like to see, if not one, two bridges across, one at either end of the park, so that it's easy access coming and going regardless of where you enter the park. And then Alex, if you'll go back to the other, to the current design, if you'll show where the flume is over by the concrete pad, that does there is from the bottom up towards where the concrete pad is, there's a concrete flume there. It doesn't affect a ton of people, but if they remove that concrete, there's going to be erosion down that hill, and it's going to likely cut in and around the current concrete pad. So it's going to make for a messy, it will make for a messy area if the water isn't directed. And one concern I have would be to propose that they just leave the flume the way it is. And then just direct the water, that they're going to have a culvert under the concrete pad anyway, just direct the water from the culvert into the stream. That would be one concern that I personally would have, besides the bridges. And then, I don't know what happens with the riparian area right up against the pond, because people will always walk right around the pond, regardless of whether there's a riparian area there or not. So that may not work as well as they hope. And also, if they come in with construction equipment right up against the pond, what does that do to a pond that's 130 years old, and the pond wall and things like that? And where's the responsibility if the pond does collapse because of construction that's going on right around it? Those are concerns that I have. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you, Alicia. And I do want to acknowledge Eva's comment that on the earlier version, there was clearly a path from one side of the stream to the other. So given how important it is to retain usability, I think these are the things that we need to make sure that we express to our commissioners. These are the things that we should be commenting about actively, either in the meeting itself during those two sections for public comment, or in the interim after the meeting.
And Alicia, if I could just comment on them moving the riparian barrier more toward the opposite side, it makes absolute sense, because that is the low-lying area anyway. However, there are utility lines that run parallel to that channel. And if you read some of the materials, I think I saw something about them committing not to touch the utility lines. And so that may be another constraining factor for them being able to move the barrier more toward Greenwood Avenue. I don't know.
And I know that I saw where they were contacting Aqua PA about the sewer lines. I don't know, and they weren't delineated in the plans that I could see where the utility lines were. And this is the first that I understand that they're right underneath the channel.
Great. Any other questions or comments that I can acknowledge for folks before I move on to what our next steps are? Anybody? All right. If you message me, I'm still keeping an eye on the chat. So if anything comes up, please let me know. So as for next steps, we need to think about community engagement. So as we said, attend the Public Works meeting on 10/8. Now, again, this is going to be via Zoom. I put the I put the link to the agenda, which contains the Zoom link in the chat. I just pasted it there again. And then over the course of the next couple of days, please take some time and look at the plans, look at the overview, and kind of start to formulate your thoughts on how the proposal will change your current use of the park. And consider speaking or messaging your commissioners. Again, like I said, we have a form that automatically emails all of them. You can also email them directly if you don't want to go through us. It really does make a difference. They really listen to us. And we've had a really fruitful partnership with them over the course of the last several months, and it demonstrates that they really do want to make sure that they're taking into account all of our thoughts on these things to the greatest extent that they're able, of course. And then again, if the meeting, we'll continue to send out the dates and the times and all of the materials that you're going to need. So keep an eye on your inboxes as those dates approach. But you can also mark the Board of Commissioners meeting on October 22nd. If the Public Works approves the 1/3 design, it's going to move to the Board of Commissioners meeting, and that's yet another opportunity for us to voice our thoughts once again before they move to final approvals. And note again, the next approval will be for the 90% plan design, as Ted explained. This will likely be in December or January and follow the same approval process as reviewed here. Ken and Jeff pointed, there are small white flags in the woods on the pond side of the park. Do we know what they're marking? Now, I know the chalk markings, if you go down there, I think this was only done over the last day or so. If you go down there, we made some chalk markings. Dari, would you like to speak to what those are?
Sure. Albert and I actually took a chalk line and tried to measure 35 feet on either side of the channel, the existing channel. Now we know that that's more like 51 feet, just to give you an idea, a visual. So if you go down and stand with your back again to the willow, you'll have a good visual what 35 feet looks like in terms of the impact on that open field. And then if you go another, so many feet to get to 52, 53 feet, you'll have an even better idea based on the information Ted shared tonight. So if you have time to go down and take a look at the chalk lines, that would be great. In terms of the white flags, we had Maris Raish, who came down. She is a student, and her father offered her services, and she was working with TTF as a volunteer this summer. And Maris spent some time looking at the woodland trail that we were thinking about. And so the white flags that you're seeing is what Maris actually suggested in terms of the woodland trail. And we're trying to focus our projects on areas of the park that won't be impacted by this project. So you're seeing wood chips that are going down in certain areas because they're not areas that are going to be addressed by the project. The woodland trail through the grove is not something that's going to be addressed. These are things that we can do in the interim while all this other stuff is trying to be figured out with the township. So that's the white flag.
And the other thing you can do if you're interested, we also we're trying to build up our volunteer roster, and we're trying to host a couple more cleanups. I mean, all that we can do to show the township how much we care about this park is really that's something I want to also throw a little shout out and thank you to all of the folks who've been coming to our cleanups and who've been helping us to materially improve the park and demonstrate how much the community loves it. So yeah, that's another thing that we can potentially do to kind of continue continue to stay abreast of these things because, you know, it does take time. It takes some time. So again, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We were aiming to keep this under an hour. I think we're on track for that. We have about 15 minutes if we're going to stay true to that goal. But any other questions, thoughts, concerns? This can be procedural. These can be questions about the designs because we have two folks who are engineers on our board that are here in this meeting tonight. So if you have questions about the designs themselves, I'm sure they'd be happy to lend whatever clarity they're able to do. But in the meantime, here's all of our information. If you want to join the Friends, if you're not already a member, you're welcome to visit our website. You can email us. Again, we're happy to send you whatever information you need in order to continue to kind of mull over whether or not this is a good plan for you. And also, we have some educational materials, and we also have a donate link on our Linktree. That's Linktree, linktr.ee/Friends of Robinson Park. We have educational materials on the history of the Friends, on the history of the park. We also have lawn signs available at the cost of $15 a piece. We're also moving towards selling t-shirts that are honestly kind of cute. I really like them. So we're moving towards selling t-shirts as well. So if you're interested in a lawn sign or a t-shirt, please reach out to us and we'll make that happen for you. And the lawn signs do work. I have to say, we have a QR code on there, and we've managed to get a couple of people who were not previously on our mailing list to join. And when I asked them, how'd you find us? They walked past one of our lawn signs and scanned them. So they really do work, and they really are helping to raise awareness for what we're trying to achieve and accomplish. Anything else before we conclude our meeting this evening?
Well, I would just say I hope you find this to be helpful, and we will continue to try and keep you updated on events as they occur. Oh, the other thing I wanted to let you know is, I don't know if you've noticed, but we were able to create a monofilament and fish hook disposal recycling container down in the park. Because we have had so many problems with some of our young fishing people who don't necessarily follow appropriate protocol. We put a monofilament recycle container down there, and much to our delight, when Albert checked it on Saturday, it was actually being used. So it's working. Yes, Mike.
I just wanted to thank you, the board, and all the folks that are working so hard to make this happen. Really appreciate it. And, you can count on my support now and into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone, you know where we are. If you need us, just walk up the hill and knock on my door.
That too, yes.
Thanks, everybody. Have
Thanks,
a great
everybody.
night.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll stick around for another minute here just in case anybody has any questions or thoughts. But appreciate you all. Thanks for making time for us this evening. All right, I think that's probably everybody. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. All right, I am going to end this meeting.
Okay.